I work for the CIA. I am not a spy. I just read books. We read everything that's published in the world.
On this podcast, especially when we did our This is Revolution episodes, we have spent plenty of time talking about the fallout from Watergate and the cynicism and suspicion that boiled over in the mid-1970s.
Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
This feeling was a long time coming. As far back as the Kennedy assassination, there was mounting suspicion that our government was lying to us. As assassinations of prominent Americans such as Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X continued unabated, stories about the CIA's plots to assassinate world leaders, especially Fidel Castro using mafia figures, broke. And Americans became so disillusioned with Lyndon Johnson's Vietnam policy that it pushed a once popular president from office.
I shall not seek, and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
Richard Nixon was like throwing a match into a gasoline-filled stadium. Nixon's paranoid personality and outlook, which saw the CIA as a force needing to be reined in and controlled by Nixon loyalists, lit the stadium aflame with Watergate, and the smoke filled the whole city of Washington. Both the FBI and the CIA were implicated as the entire facade came crashing down. In 1974, as the cultural mood reached a fever pitch, 1 year after Nixon's resignation, James Grady, who had been both a political aide and was currently working for the investigative muckraker Jack Anderson, released his first novel, 6 Days of the Condor. Jack Anderson had worked for Drew Pearson's Merry-Go-Round and was the journalist who had uncovered the CIA's mafia plot to overthrow Fidel Castro.
A newsman operates in the open. Everything he does is out where everybody can see it. The great danger are those who operate behind closed doors, those who operate in secret. The president never ever expected that his secret conversations were going to be draped out for the world to see. Now we know how they talk.
James Grady's novel was about CIA corruption and centered around Ronald Malcolm, a CIA employee who returns to his station to find everyone in his section dead. He goes on the run and must evade rogue members of a rogue CIA element who are out to assassinate him. In the process, Malcolm takes a paralegal named Wendy Ross hostage. This novel was electric, dropping right before Cy Hirsch published the Family Jewels leak in the New York Times. This leak confirmed the CIA was in violation of its charter and was spying on American citizens. The Family Jewels report had been compiled by Nixon loyalist CIA director James Schlesinger in an attempt to bring the CIA to heel. The moment was too hot not to turn 6 Days of the Condor into a movie immediately. And so, Sidney Pollack directed an adaptation, 3 Days of the Condor, in 1975. 1975 was the year that all of this crescendoed, dubbed the Year of Intelligence. 3 Days of the Condor starred Robert Redford and Faye Dunaway at the peak of their popularity. Like the title, which cuts the amount of days in half, 3 Days of the Condor changes many of Grady's all-too-prescient details. The plot, which gets Robert Redford's Joe Turner's section killed, is about capturing oil fields in the Middle East, instead of Grady's plot, which is about drug smuggling from Laos. Joe Turner, rather than being involved in a clandestine operations office, is an analyst in the CIA front, the American Literary Historical Society. In both the book and the movie, the Turner character is responsible for reading and logging spy novels and adventure stories into a computer.
Yes.
Hey, where'd you get that thing about the ice? Dashiell Hammett?
Dick Tracy. Are you sure about this ideogram?
This means that he has an outsider status, which does not tar him with the CIA's corruption. Joe Turner does not fit with the stuffy bookish professors, military men, or overly academic members of the CIA. He is a dork who rides a bike to work, reads voraciously, and has no experience with covert operations. Pollack's version also moves the action away from Washington, D.C. and the nation's political center, and puts the action in a frenzied and busy New York City, complete with scenes in the World Trade Center. Pollack and Robert Redford, both known as famous liberals, took pains to explain that they were mostly just interested in making an espionage movie rather than the real-life implications of the CIA. And yet, the cynicism, corruption, and real-world analogies that underwrote Grady's novels are very much present. Pretty interestingly, as 1975 is the year when the North Vietnamese tanks rolled into Saigon and officially ended the Vietnam War, the next stage of global war against communism would be in the Middle East rather than Southeast Asia.
That's it, isn't it? This whole damn thing was about oil. Wasn't it? Wasn't it?
Huh? Oil? Who said something about oil, bitch? You cooking?
Robert Redford is in peak form in 3 Days of the Condor. A few months back, during our election night extravaganza, we watched The Candidate and talked about Robert Redford finding out about Watergate while on a train making press appearances.
And I saw this little article about the profile of two guys. And I said, wow, that's interesting. I said, no, that I'd love to know what that was like. And I thought in my head at that time, I said, wow, what a nice little black and white film that would be with two unknown actors to play these guys and tell the story that nobody would know about, because it eventually led to Nixon resigning and so forth.
He tracked down Woodward and Bernstein in order to get their stories for what would end up being All the President's Men in 1976. Faye Dunaway, likewise, at her peak, was about to star in Network in 1976, and had just starred with Jack Nicholson in Chinatown in 1974.
I don't want your pain. I don't want your menopausal decay and death. I don't need you, Mark. Now get out of
me. You need me badly.
One other actor I'd like to shout out is Max von Sydow. He plays a shadowy contract killer who may or may not be from Alsace-Lorraine.
It would happen this way. You may be walking. Maybe the first sunny day of the spring. And a car will slow beside you. And the door will open. And someone you know, maybe even trust, will get out of the car. And he will smile. A becoming smile. But he will leave open the door of the car and offer to give you a lift.
Sidney Pollack has been adamant about saying that this film should be taken as fiction and not as political propaganda. However, it should be noted that the Year of Intelligence culminated in the Church Committee being formed to investigate the CIA.
And the dart itself, when it strikes the target, does the target know that he's been hit and about to die?
That depends, Mr. Chairman, on the particular dart used. There are different kinds of these flechettes that were used in various weapon systems, and a special one was developed which potentially would be able to enter the target without perception.
You definitely don't have to feel one way or the other about the CIA to enjoy a pretty complicated and intriguing mystery full of espionage, political corruption, and references to a giant, almost extinct bird.
I don't...
What is your designation?
Condor.
And a romance between two of Hollywood's most talented stars of the 1970s.
We have games. That's all. We play games. What if? How many men? What would it take? Is there a cheaper way to destabilize a regime? That's what we're paid to do.
Walk on.
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, let me say, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live show, send us a super chat. We are absolutely obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer it. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are available on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, host of Botanic Reversal, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Right now, Conan is working on Caterwaul 2023. Caterwaul Music Festival is going to be in Minneapolis from May 26th to 29th. Tickets are on sale now at caterwaul.org. Christina Oakes, when she's not dog sitting, you can find her streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/cosmopolitics. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at @cosmopolitics. Throw her some subs on Twitch. J. Andrew World, illustrator, book cover artist, comic designer, and artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and Bad Takes. Sam Seder is the host of The Majority Report, Hugo the Health Inspector on Bob's Burgers, and the director and co-writer of Who's the Caboose. I, of course, am your covertly operating host, Forrest Miller, Movie Night Extravaganza station chief, and Tucker Carlson's dad's boss at Radio Marti. Let's launch this coup.
Well done.
That was great.
Sam, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah. Thank you. That was a really great. I want to say clip, but that was a great little short. That was really well done.
Thanks. I do these intros every they like range. Sometimes it's like 6 minutes, and sometimes it's like 8 minutes, and I think that's
sometimes it's like the Apocalypse Now director's cut. Yeah, it's a little long.
No, that was very great. I mean, it took everything I was going to say about the film. So.
That's all time we got, folks. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for having me, and good day.
By the way, we've made the Who's the Caboose joke a bunch of times with Matthew Film Guy when he's been on. Just like, you should come back on for that.
for Who's the Caboose? Yeah. Well, Matthew also edited another film that I did that really has not been released, but there are some parallels that I see in 3 Days of the Condor, which I should say was made first. But I don't know if you want me to launch into this, but
I think you're already doing it. Go ahead, launch away.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I love the movie, but what's amazing about it is, I first saw it probably as a kid when you didn't really have control over what movies you were going to see. When I was like 12 in the late 70s, I guess it was, when I'm watching like UHF television, you get the movies that you get. You don't really have an option. And 3 Days of the Condor was one of those films that was there. And it was probably at that time, like 5 or 6 years old. And I think that's probably where I first saw it. But, and I watched it in the 90s a couple of times. In fact, John Benjamin was, had he not been tied up, would have come on, because we used to quote Max von Sydow all the time.
Oh, he rocks in this, yeah.
It will happen this way was just, we would, but
that
after 9/11,
with the little music behind it is so good.
Yes.
They have like the little like xylophone kind of like da, da, da. Yeah.
No, fantastic. But after 9/11, the movie, which it was a coincidence the first time it came out, right? Because it was in progress when the whole family jewels thing was revealed. And really in many respects, like, with Watergate, and the oil, in the wake of the oil shocks. But then after 9/11,
the first in the whole decade of oil shocks, which is kind of an insane thing when you look at like his line where he's like, oh, talking about like the oil shortages at the end of it, and he's like, they're going to just want us to get the oil from us, like absolutely prophetic by the end of the by the time Reagan,
and could have been like said last week,
Yeah, well,
instead of 47 years ago.
It was right around then. Was it 72 or maybe it was in the 50s? We had hit peak oil. I think maybe it was in 50 for the United States, anyways, at least as we understood it. And our ability to extract, through the 50s, we were the top producer of oil in the world. And we had hit peak oil in terms of, which is just how much can you pull out of the ground at a price that you can reasonably sell it for. And so that was in the air, but all of that was, sort of somewhat prophetic. But then if you combine the oil stuff with post 9/11, they used the towers. And the amazing thing is, like, right around the time this movie came out, I was a kid and had gone down to New York with my parents and had visited the towers just as they were, had been completed more or less, right around the time they were shooting this. And they use the towers as almost like a axis. Like even when they're in Brooklyn, there's a shot or two, like when they're driving into Catherine Hale's house.
Yeah.
You can see the towers in the background because they're in Brooklyn Heights, I think it is. And the CIA's at the towers. Like it always comes back to the Twin Towers, which of course was attacked by bin Laden because it was sort of like because of everything it represented. And it represented the same thing in this film and was intricately tied into the idea of controlling Middle East oil. And
it's even in like the framing shots at the beginning. Like it's all
everywhere.
throughout the whole thing.
It's all throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's also it was owned by Rockefeller, right? At this point, like the Rockefeller brothers were the ones that originally commissioned to have the Twin Towers built. And
I don't know if I knew that, but yeah, Standard Oil.
They ended up being like Nelson Rockefeller. Like one of the towers was named Nelson, and the other one was I forget his brother's name, but they
I call them by their family name, which is
well, they had the Rockefeller Commission, which was the commission, like the first one that Ford had to investigate the CIA. When like after Watergate or whatever, they're like, oh, we're gonna do like the most biased possible like Warren Commission style investigation of the CIA to see what they're up to. And when that kind of failed with the public, they went to the Church Committee.
Right. I mean, so but the whole thing became so much more. It sort of became relevant again after 9/11. I feel like, and then so much of it was prophetic. That was one of the problems we had with Bad Situation, that some of that was a little too prophetic for the time. But that was.
I mean, what was Bin Laden if not a rogue former CIA asset?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's not. I mean, he literally was.
Yeah.
So that it has all that resonance, and then it's also just like it's a great thriller.
It's also just a good thriller, yeah.
And the other part about at the end, the control of the Times, of the New York Times, as and all of the questions that we began to understood about the media, like this is a time where you mentioned it, I think in the package, but All the President's Men was like sort of reinvigorating the faith in the press and as an institution, and then it gets undercut here in a way that is, now I think definitely we have a lot of examples of the Times holding stories because they've been told to, and those are the ones we know about.
Right, and that's the whole thing with the line. Do you think they're going to print it, at the end?
Right, exactly.
What a great ending.
Yeah.
By the way, spoiler alert, everyone who thought they were watching the movie instead of watching people talk about the movie.
Yeah, they 100% did not print
for a 47-year-old movie, right? I mean, it's probably okay.
Yeah,
if you haven't seen it, they did not print that. Anything he gave them absolutely did not get printed.
Definitely not. I mean, that's why they ended it there. I mean, you can tell them a story, but what are you going to do if they don't print it?
It should have gone to Ramparts or something like that. He probably gave the copies of everything to them. You know what I mean? Like, because he's an amateur. He does not.
Oh, you mean as opposed to I mean, it wasn't so easy to photocopy back then.
Gave them the originals, and he's like, oh, they're gonna print this. They're definitely gonna.
You couldn't go to the bodega and do a copy at that time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, and so this is Parallax View was I think the year before that, the Pacula movie, and then I think All the President's Men, which weirdly we haven't covered. We talked about The Candidate, and we talked about Redford hearing about Watergate, but we haven't actually covered All the President's Men, which is hilarious.
With that really, I think, horny reporter or whatever that kept really wanting to talk about. I forget what she was trying to talk with him about, but
she was trying to talk him into bed, is what she was trying to do. But yeah,
she just kept going back to the same point, and then
yeah. But those Pacula, those movies, this is kind of the golden era of this type of movie to a certain degree.
Totally.
And I think those three, especially All the President's Men, Parallax View, and 3 Days of the Condor, people are used to like modern political thrillers, which are more like everyone's got cell phones and the internet and this and that. And, you know, there are things that are corollary. Conversation, I would include in that too, another one we've covered. Like I just think about like how different Conversation, which I think is a genuine masterpiece, versus something like Enemy of the State, which is like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good like Bush era political thriller, but it's not a masterpiece like The Conversation.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with the technology. It's more about the filmmaking.
And Cenk Uger's in it, which is a plus, but
right. Is he really? I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's like an extra in like a bunch of scenes. He's in the
Hassan's fake
he's
uncle.
like a technician.
Apparently, Sam, you are his real uncle, by the way. So
I learned something on our own show. Amazing.
I just learned two things.
Yeah, you sure did. but I think the thing is, like, people don't understand that there was not any movie like this at the time. This was not like it's this kind of movie where like this guy's like, you know, trying to not get killed and unravel the mystery, and it's like, oh yeah, we're the CIA is the problem. Like, this is like the first of that kind. So I think that people are used to seeing those kinds of stories now. Whereas, like, I mean, I wasn't born when this came out, but like I can only imagine like how like groundbreaking it must have been at the time to like see it in a theater too.
Yeah, I'm not that old that I was allowed to go see it in the theater.
Yeah. I'm not saying you are, Sam, to be clear.
But there was a couple of movies, like I don't remember when. There was a couple of movies that was of that ilk that had at least, maybe not so much the direct aim at the government, like Parallax View is an example. There was another one, Capricorn 1, and it may have come a little bit later. Capricorn 1 is not nearly as good of a film, but it's actually not a horrible film. It's a conspiracy theory. O.J. Simpson's actually in it.
That's what I was going to ask.
And Elliot Gould, who also, like, in that era, if you see anything with Elliot Gould, you've got like a 75% chance it's going to be a good movie. Like,
I just watched The Long Goodbye.
Well, I was going to bring A Long Goodbye as of that era
I just watched
too.
it a month ago, right?
And that's a great film. That's a great film.
We did when we did the other Altman movie, we did Nashville. With,
yes, and that is of that same like same.
That's a whopping. That's a big whopping
sensibility.
super chat.
Yeah,
thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Late Stage Tom. The show is broke, so yeah. Thank you. We're on baling wire and duct tape over here, so every dollar counts.
But Capricorn 1, it's about how they faked the moon landing.
Right, yeah, I remember this now.
And the government is sort of like behind it. I mean, so it's not. It's a couple of clicks, down the conspiracy hole, but it expresses the sort of like the era of Americans starting to not trust their government, and where that could lead. And that was, both in the wake of Watergate, but also the killing of Kennedy, assassination of Kennedy, and MLK for that matter. Both of the Kennedys, and so you start to see in that era more sort of like skepticism of institutions and particularly of government.
And it was not mainstream. That's so key too, because like I think so much conspiracy stuff has been mainstreamed and is just like, that's
thanks
what
to the X-Files.
That's what, like that's what your Uncle Bob believes, like he's
but
just,
not my Uncle Bob.
Just don't mention the letter Q around him, or you're going to be hearing it for an hour and a half. Like, and it used to be like Art Bell. Like, Sam, do you remember the Art Bell show? That was always a tour mainstay.
Yes, and shoot, what was the guy who filled in for Art Bell? I used to
Norrie.
George Norrie.
George Norrie. Yeah,
and yes, and that. But I mean. I was listening to Norrie as late as 2003.
Yeah, because it was still like, oh, check this out. This is wild. Like, you never hear this.
That's a different order of
It's
conspiracy.
a different...
I mean,
fair.
the thing about this one, and the thing about, like, even, Capricorn 1, although it's sort of, again, like on one end of the margin. And then also, think about, like, Chinatown, and, as well, like, has an element of that. is that
another great Faye Dunaway, by the way. Another great Faye Dunaway.
Yep.
Yeah, she had her 3 movie
directed by
run.
nobody, sadly. But anyway, go ahead.
Her 3 movie run was Chinatown, and then this, and then Network, and
then
like back to back.
The best drag performance ever in 1981.
Well, she like kind of disappeared off the scene after Network, and she was in that movie with Betty Davis or whatever, and that didn't
Betty
go very
Davis
well.
was like, worst person I've ever worked with was Faye Dunaway. Meanwhile, Joan Crawford's like, I would love Faye Dunaway to portray me in a film.
Yeah.
She seems like a marvelous actress.
Inside you are 2 wolves. Yeah.
Yes. I got Joan Crawford eyes though, not Betty Davis eyes.
By the way, Cedar Unbuttoned would be a great name for a book. Sam. That's like just your like, casual thoughts. Cedar Unbuttoned.
Yeah, that'd be very, very casual.
Yeah.
Network, when he's giving the speech, right? He goes into the whole thing about how the Saudis own everything, and I feel like this movie's at a perfect crossroads too, because the whole scene with like the Middle East and oil, we're kind of like that's the perfect
groundbreaking concepts at the time. Because remember, this is before like that had been mainstreamed as like, oh, everybody knows that. It's like, well, everybody knows that now.
Well, this is the perfect moment to pivot. Like they're pivoting away from Southeast Asia, right? Like the book was about Laos, and it came out a year before that. And by this point, they're like, well, I think the Middle East and oil, because of OPEC, would be like the more. They like people had never really thought that we could, besides at war, we could kind of run out of like oil before, or we could kind of get embargoed from oil before.
Yeah, and we're in a competition, Christina.
Yes. Fargo, hush.
It's a competition where everybody wins. Thank you. Yeah.
But yes, and it's all where I think it was like the next phase of the Cold War at that time too. I mean, that's what's going on.
And just a couple years later, a few years later, Carter would and Brzezinski would kind of jump into the Soviet-Afghanistan conflict to try to make the Middle East, the Soviet version of Southeast Asia, and successfully doing that, and then empowering their friend Bin Laden, and kind of everything.
The rest is
going
history.
from there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's important to realize too, with all of that, like the movies sort of showing like the cracks in the foundation of these American institutions, and that like these were the first films that were really, mainstreamed. That were America's not always like the good guy. Maybe. Yeah, well, and like granted, like those have showed up in the past, but there was so many of them, and they were so pointed, and like, well, can't argue with that.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you've gone into this with in some of your prior shows, but that era, was when the studio system was sort of like falling apart, and they were given money to a very different group of people to go out and make movies, and sort of laying off them. And there was that stage, what's his face wrote about it,
Yeah, with all the Bogdanovich stuff.
Yeah,
and like
exactly.
Redford and all that.
Exactly.
And with the American Zoetrope is a kind of a perfect like whoever Coppola was handing money to.
There was a big shift by like the mid to late 60s of where like film was going, and music, like they used some movie musicals, for instance, like when Hello Dolly came out in 1969, the sexual revolution already hit. So there was no need for like these clean cut films. We needed more nitty gritty films. And that explains like this complete total like shift within the 70s and 80s and onward.
Well, Godfather,
Raging Bulls, that's what the book was.
Yeah,
Raging
Bulls,
Bulls,
and whatever, something else.
Easy Riders, and one other. Really.
Matthew Film Guy in the chat with the assist.
Oh right, yes.
Yeah, well, and Cabaret was the Godfather's main competition, which is crazy to think about when you think about tonality of like that year. Where it's like The Godfather, like widely thought of as like one of the greatest films of all time, and Cabaret, which is Cabaret, fine. I'm not saying anything about it, but like those are like again, these we only remember it a certain way.
To comment on Cabaret.
We'll go to our Cabaret correspondent to hear more about that, but yeah. But like this is a key, like this is a linchpin in that type of filmmaking, and like having that type of filmmaking where you could make. Because there's something fail-safe, like that existed in the past, where it's like, oh no, that's like, a different kind of horror story than a lot of things that are actually more horrific. But this is like a good movie. And it's like getting across these political points, but it's like, oh, it's a thriller. No, this is like, first of all, you get to see two incredibly hot people be hot together, which people always love. And it works.
Into that one scene that, Matthew Phone Guy wanted us to ask Sam about.
Which one was that?
It's not a rape scene. It's a hostage. It's a Stockholm syndrome scene when the Stockholm syndrome fully takes.
Well, that scene is like you feel like only Robert Redford could have gotten away with it. I mean, a different actor, honestly. Like, I don't know, a different actor. I just don't know if it cuts it. But like,
she makes that joke in the kitchen, and he looks down, and then she apologizes for it. It's like, this dude kidnapped you. You don't need to like apologize.
Yeah, pretty sure this was before the term Stockholm syndrome was invented. For those who want to figure out what it's about, there's this Swedish series called Clark about Clark Olofsson, who played by Bill Skarsgård. He inspired the Stockholm syndrome thing in Sweden back in like the mid 70s, I believe. Really good miniseries, highly recommend. But speaking of like that scene, I actually have it pulled up here.
It should be called Manhattan Syndrome because Faye Dunaway had it.
You've heard of Anna syndrome. Well, this one's a lot sexier.
So,
and more troubling with consent. Go ahead, Christina. Sorry.
So, in her biography, Looking for Gatsby, Faye Dunaway says, this film, now I'm sorry, but the idea of being kidnapped and ravaged by Robert Redford was anything but frightening. At one point, after Redford temporarily left the set and director Pollack took over his role for Dunaway's reaction shots, the cameras were rolling, I was in position, and suddenly Sidney lunged at me, growling, I'm going to get you. I'm tied up at this point, unable to get away or move much at all, but Sidney kept moving towards me, his eyes glaring at me as he went on detailing all the horrible things he was going to do to me. And let me tell you, Sidney has an inventive mind. He is also a great actor, but he scared the hell out of me. Sidney kept the camera rolling. He was relentless.
Interesting.
Well, she also said she couldn't stop smiling and kind of giggling that entire when she's supposed to be afraid that he's going to rape her because she's like, it's Robert Redford,
and it's like the most handsome guy around. Yeah.
I can see it.
At the time, if you pulled up a dictionary and went to handsome, it'd be Robert Redford.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's why I don't think there was really, Paul Newman was also sort of a heartthrob at that time, but I think even Paul Newman, I'm not sure could have even pulled that off. Yeah. It was just because Redford was also, and it's interesting. I mean, they really set him up as we knew that he was not aggressive, which also made it easier to accept. But that's pretty, I mean, for that era, there were very different standards. I don't know that you could get away with that at all today. And
you definitely
even if it was, all those other factors associated with it, I think it would be a much dicier type of situation.
You'd have to do more with the characterization because you get the indication based on her photos and the way she lives her life that she's kind of like a bit of a a lonesome individual and has all these lonely photographs and stuff like that, and it's implied, but again, it's not enough to imply that these days. Filmmaking then, it was oh yeah, this broad, she's she leads a lonely life and she takes photos.
See, I don't think the idea was that that she was lonely. I didn't get that. I got it that she was avoidant of people.
She would, maybe I misspoke with that. You're right.
Yeah. I think at one point they have an exchange where the implication is that she's almost okay with it because she thinks he's not going to be around.
She pretty much says as much. Yeah.
Well, she says, I think you're going to be dead.
Yeah.
But that is
well, hey, if you're dead, it's not cheating. So,
tell it to the dude in Vermont.
This is a one-off, in a bar one night,
Yeah.
This is also, that the early mid 70s, that was a much different sort of time in those type of things.
Well, and so yes, and to be clear, he does physically restrain her, ties her up, and puts her in the bathroom. I think, right, if I remember right. But the idea of it being like there is a little bit more nuance to that. Like, you know, she also serves as, you know, a Greek chorus almost to a certain degree of like, well, are you sure that this is like, you know, the way you thought? Like, but not to the point of being like, you know, like the skeptic or whatever, because she gets on board. I mean, look, the woman puts a pastrami sandwich in her purse for the guy. She obviously likes him, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's Robert Redford. So.
Exactly. Put 2 pastrami sandwiches in there for Robert Redford.
One that Montgomery Clift has put in his mouth. So
right, exactly.
It's not just
a big old bite out of it.
The pastrami sandwich. It's also Montgomery Clift's saliva,
which is a great flex. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I'm just saying. Yeah, it's never going to smell the same in that purse ever again.
No, never.
So, Andy, what you've been relatively quiet on this so far. Any
I have
any
been.
thoughts?
I've been enjoying myself sitting here like as a spectator on screen. Yeah. So I'm the audience stand-in right now.
Do you have any thoughts on this? How about for the poster art? I mean, poster is pretty interesting on this.
Yeah, I actually quite enjoyed it. I mean, like I'm staring at this. I right before we went on, I was watching a couple artists look at a collection of Steve Root artwork, and they were discussing the process that he was using, something very similar. And I've just been trying to remember what it's called, but it's fascinating stuff because like these are like tones and stuff that you used to get and cut and it creates a really unique effect that we don't have anymore. Like it's gone from from art supply stores and from artist toolkits. So it's kind of neat to see like just looking at that background. But the various other posters too were kind of fascinating.
Yeah, there was one that we were looking at.
Oh, can I just say the thumbnail for the show today I thought was fantastic. I love that.
That's all Andy. He does that every episode.
I
Can you believe
to
it?
compliment you on that, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, he said practice drawing Sam Seder because he's done it for Ben a bunch of times in a row.
It's so cool.
This is the one where I sort of spilled the beans about that Sam was coming to the episode, and I was like, I don't care that's in a foreign language. I'm gonna throw it out there. And
it's a nice one. I love how they darken into the glasses because he's just those are regular glasses, and they're like, oh no, they're sunglasses now, and he's in there at night. He's like Corey Hart.
Where are my sunglasses at?
And this one is more of a this is like more of a traditional one, but it's still it's pretty good.
Look at use of the red.
Be careful who you trust. Yeah,
I like the wing as a motif in it. I think it's a good idea. I don't know if it's well executed, but I definitely like the idea.
Yeah, the wing is the background. Yeah.
This is the worst one.
Uh-oh.
That was my natural reaction. Oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was
I'm
like
not mad at it.
It doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't even say like who's in the movie. It's just
it's like a stall base kind of thing. Like it's all graphic design, man.
May I ask who's calling, please?
I would go into that movie expecting a big bird, and when there was no actual, I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's yellow. It's got a big bird on it. It's Sesame Street, obviously.
Yeah. But the bird's got a gun, so you're in for a good time. So
yeah, Big Bird's tired of asking.
It just looks like a novel. It looks like a novel you'd find at a used bookstore or something, and you'd be like, oh, what's this?
like maybe.
What is? May I ask who's calling, please?
I don't know.
Maybe like a 6 days of the Condor, they always redo the covers of the books to make them closer to like a movie adaptation.
Yeah.
Maybe that.
Well, and there is all that tech too. There's like with he ties the phone lines together, which is adorable if you think about that today. But like that, that's all technology that's based in reality. That was how you tapped a phone. Like you literally went to the exchange box and you ran like a physical line out. Like it was like all exactly like that.
That's the other thing I love about watching that movie too, is just the sentimentality. Like I said, I was born in New York, and my parents still had friends here. We would come down from Worcester and spend a weekend, and New York was a pretty amazing place to be in as like a 6 or 7 or 8 year old. Like it was, that like it's shot all around New York. There's just so much. there's no sets there, right? It's all the streets, and they really use the city. Like, you know, there are other movies like Marathon Man, I think.
Marathon
has
Man.
got that sort of same sort of like quality where if you really want to get a taste of what New York in the 70s was like, and then, you know, then there's, you know, French Connection.
I was about to say French Connection because that maniac, that lovable maniac, when we covered this, that's when we learned, oh, he didn't get any permits. No, they were just doing that.
Pelham 1, 2, 3. I mean, there's a bunch of these that you can that New York is just so, it feels quintessentially New York to me.
And it's really cool because you know, the novel takes place in Washington D.C., which is a much smaller and like more closed off community. He'd not really have that many places to go, you know, if he's kind of running from the government and he works for the government. So including it in like the New York, is it like academic, like the New York Literary Association or something, historical literary. So, like that really is the kind of place that they would have used for a CIA front for these people that are, you know, kind of liberals cloistered off from the main action of, you know, the covert and clandestine operations of it. You know, they would pay off a lot of like a lot of academics. They'd pay off a lot of like, you know, kids just coming out of college that like are interested in doing, you know, like art or like radio or like all kinds of like cultural stuff. They were just pouring money into those projects to try to make like CIA propaganda. Half the time the people didn't even know it was CIA propaganda. I guess these cool kids are a little bit more in the know. But
and I just love how it. I mean, I had never read the book, and I think, you know, I only recently knew that it was originally set in D.C., and that just seems so much less interesting because it all plays out in front of so many people that what really makes it interesting to me.
It's also, you know, the city that never sleeps. So they did it in 3 days. They managed to, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of the long 6 days that you would have had in Washington D.C.
That would have been
economy of motion. Yeah, if you would have done it in Iowa, it would have been 12. You know, okay, but yeah, I like it adds to the frantic element. True, yeah, of it being like, oh no, there's people around, and like, you know, even just when you start off, like, I mean, for people that haven't seen it, he goes to lunch. Comes you know, and they sit there like, you know, just shooting the breeze at the lunch counter. You know, the guy, what is this? The New York Public Library? I can come here to learn, or whatever he says. And and then, you know, it comes back and everyone's dead. And like, it's like, what?
Quickly.
But it totally
and
tracks.
It's almost played for comedy, that part of it, because he like walks in and the guy's like been shot, and we've seen everybody get shot.
Come on,
like, what are you doing on the floor?
Yeah, and but
they love it. They love to put fake blood on themselves and go on the that's real blood.
Really
but it's set up before because he bikes into work and he leaves his bike outside and he catches some kids like casing his bike trying to steal it too, and like he goes out and he gets locked out of the building and has to be buzzed back in, and this like you get this establishment of like, again, it's a certain kind of claustrophobia. Ironically, we talked about Beau's Afraid last week. It's put to like cartoonish excess in the first half of that, with like, you know, this sort of like, you know, it being like, oh, this is this enclosed space that's secure, but it's only safe if like you are letting in like certain people, and like these guys come in and just, you know, blow everybody away, and that's like how it starts. And again, I think it's that prompt has been used many times in storytelling, but it's done so effectively here because you get a little bit of a lived-in experience with it that doesn't move jump cut fast at all. Like, it's very methodical, and I think that's why it works, frankly.
It also
and the sound of the printers going and the computers going,
and that weird like porno jazz kind of like funk.
Every time I
the
put this on, I
music
think
in
I'm
this
watching the
film
wrong
is
movie.
so like early to mid 70s. I'm like,
Well,
oh god,
You only get a pass for that type of music in this kind of film if it's from the 1970s.
Yes,
that's the only time
I
that
love
you get a pass.
that music myself.
I think it works, but if you see
love
Will
it.
Smith doing it, I'm gonna be pissed off. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Well, they don't make that kind of like theme song that they commit to. I guess the closest thing you get is like Secession doing like the same kind of theme song with like just small variations on it throughout like seasons of that show, but that's not really
Oh.
the same as being able to do like a that this kind of like groove throughout it. And I think that's also what adds to like kind of the comedic like when he walks in and sees everybody dead, and it's like that weird moment where it's almost played for comedy. I feel like the fact that like the movie starts out with the ticket like that the kind of, I don't even know what
it's like dot
the
matrix
smooth-
printer.
It's like something a bit happy, upbeat.
It's definitely
Somebody's
it's
gonna get
upbeat
laid.
for sure. It does indeed, Andy, sound like someone is about to get laid. Yes.
It's the only other thing I could really think of with like a similar kind of, it's like Shaft, I guess.
Yes.
Taxi Driver. Honestly.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of movies I think that have that kind of music from that era. A lot of movies.
Superfly.
Yeah, but there's more. There's a lot more. Like gosh.
It was staple for a lot of 70s like movies.
Yeah,
to have,
well,
like,
I mean,
jazzy.
Yeah, I feel like I can't remember, but like Marathon Man may have had that kind of music.
I think you're right.
A little.
That music is like it's all over the 70s, and like,
I remember the live action Spider-Man show had that.
Well, there he is, everybody. Andrew World. An ex-bandmate of mine started a band that he called Car Chase, and it was exactly what you think. It was like that type of music, but like the music where it gets kind of sped up and they're like chasing something. And I was like, what a great concept for a band. They were really good too.
When I was in my movie making days, I had an album called Funk Cinematique that had all of that kind of music,
nice,
but Italian produced,
Hell.
and it was fantastic. Like it was
It
basically was the
as
scratch
good
pad
as John
of everything
Benjamin's
that-
albums.
How dare you, ma'am?
Yes, how dare you even raise his name?
Who? Yeah.
Well, this
Which
was the
reminds
time
me,
also that,
everybody should try
Morricone,
the.
Morricone was still putting out like kind of like cool.
All the Sergio
cool
Leone
music
soundtracks.
Yeah, like throwing stuff out there that you could. I like that he just has extra music hanging around now that you could like get just a Morricone soundtrack and be like, oh, you could just put like stuff I've never used for anything. Sure, go ahead. Like,
yeah, he just wrote a lot of
Yeah,
it. You know?
no, it's amazing.
What were we gonna say, Sam, about
Oh, I was going to remind everybody to get those whiskey highballs of John Benjamin's, the Jazz Daredevil.
That's a jazz.
Oh, and I should also Cedar Seeds. I forgot to say.
I was gonna say our new sponsors. Yeah.
Well, we have a special discount code for movie night extravaganza.
That's amazing.
So if you go to cedarsseeds.com, use the coupon code MNE, you will get $15 off.
nice. I need to check it out.
New Jersey still, I would.
I just got a huge dirt delivery the other day. Like I'm gonna start gardening this summer, so I got like this giant dirt delivery. It's like I don't know, like
Compost or just like
or dirt off Amazon?
Some type of garden?
No,
mix,
we got it
or-
from a farm. Like we're like building this little gardening thing, so I could garden this summer.
This is shit, dude.
Garden
That's not
bed?
dirt.
Well, it's. I mean, no, it was a dirt delivery. I don't know. They said dirt delivery. There's some manure in it too.
Dirt delivery.
Yeah, you want it to be. You want it to have like compost and.
See, that's how they
Some
get
organic
me into
material.
the postman kind of scene. They like knock on the door. The guy's like,
And he checks the shoes. I love that. I love that so much that like he's like, okay, and then like he comes in, he's sort of skeptical. He looks over and he checks the shoes. I think that's the coolest scene because it's sort of like those are not like a postal worker's shoes. Like, and that's I mean that rules. I love that bit of it. That's and
he also I like that
they get into a very. If you want to know what, and look, I like the John Wick movies. I like Nobody. I like these, like the all the Hong Kong inspired stuff. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I love how fight scenes in the 70s. A dude slips on the carpet, Like he's like, oh crap, and he like face
And
plants.
that double-fisted punch is my favorite thing. you know?
Yeah, like it's like I like that because it's more like no, that's like what actual fighting looks like. It isn't like everybody like and I love the super stylized stuff as well. But
She
like
also uses she uses her camera.
Furious has a good like actual fight scene, like a real fight scene where they're just like lobbing punches at each other on top of each other, and it looks terrible. But like which is a little more realistic than this, which is weird for Too Fast, Too Furious. I mean,
it's the first time that movie has ever been invoked.
But that's what's amazing about that fight scene is that you
Thank you,
actually
Sam, for doing the
believe. If you're
You're pro.
Oh, I know how to.
It's
rein
usually
it back
just
in.
me.
I know how to rein it back in. But
Thank you.
that scene, you actually believe that Robert Redford, who is not at all trained to fight at all,
He reads books.
He could.
He read
lucked
books about
out.
fighting.
He lucked out and just happened to like beat that guy in a fight when he had none of the skills that would have otherwise allowed him. I mean, that was the interesting thing. Like even when Valencito was like, "How did you choose the girl?" And when Redford's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Was it by age, by location, whatever it was?" And it's random. Like it was all just some measure of dumb luck that was informed by how savvy he had become by doing all the reading. I mean, they had inadvertently trained him to defeat them.
Right.
Well, and he he said, like, Jobert says it when he's talking to them in the beginning. He's like, well, the fact that he's an amateur means that I can't really guess what he's going to do because I have a certain pattern that I would follow if it's a CIA like person that I was trying to assassinate. The fact that it isn't, I have no idea what what he's gonna do. But I have this clip of the guy that played the
because there's
postman.
that thing he just like hit, and he says it almost as well. He reads like where it's like, and that's so telling, and especially when you think about the fact that there isn't like Wikipedia and like here's how you can like learn all about like falconry in like 5 minutes on YouTube or whatever. Like that was the ultimate like this is a short way of saying that like this guy is a wild card because of this. Like he could know anything.
Oh, don't get him around books. But this is the guy that played the postman, and he was interviewed at like one of the like conventions or whatever. There's very few interviews out there by people in the cast, so it's very funny that this guy that's in one scene gave like the most comprehensive 2-minute thing.
Disguised as a mailman, and that's how I gain entrance into where he is. And
Serpico, 3 days
there's
of
a
the
pot
Condor,
of
and
hot
G.I.
coffee,
Joe.
supposedly hot coffee, and he throws it at me. There was mineral oil in the coffee, so it was all over the ground. And I said to Bob, whatever you do, don't come in low. I'm going to do a sweep. And he slipped, and his head came forward. As I came around, my elbow hit him and broke his nose. And I didn't know we were going to continue the fight scene. And I looked, and there's blood coming out of it. And I started to say something to the director, Sidney Pollack. And Redford waved me off. No. So we continued the fight scene. And he called me that night and said, Hank, wait till you see the fight scene. He said, it is so. Oh, and by the way, you broke my nose. I went, Bob, you're kidding. He said, no. I said, that's it. I'll never work again as long as I live. But I wound up winning the New York Film Critics for the best fight scene in film.
For my viewers at home, just tune in. My name is Rama Screen. I'm here with the legendary Mr. Hank Garrett. He was sharing with me the story of him with Robert Redford on the set of the 3 days of the Condor, one of my favorite movies of all time. He's also a star of such movies as Serpico, and also talk to me about your association with my favorite franchise.
Why is this guy getting into his plugs? Come on.
By the way, it was G.I. Joe the cartoon series, if you're wondering, not the terrible movie.
Well, because it was like, which one of these things is not like the other, right? 3 Days of the Condor, cool. Serpico, cool. G.I. Joe,
Right? Yeah. He played Dial Tone.
Matthew in the chat. By the way, there's a whole sub conversation about what are the best fight scenes that's going on. That's quite interesting. But Matthew Film Guy bringing up Mikey and Nikki, which I agree. I love that movie. That's actually one of. I think that was the first time we had Matthew on the show. Was when we covered.
Not the first time we had him on.
You weren't on it.
Yeah. We had him on really, really early.
I'm sorry, on one of the show when it counted, which means I was on it. Thank you.
Well, we never covered Mikey and Nikki because I wasn't on it.
All right, shut up. Anyway, Mikey and Nikki has a great fight scene that's also inelegant, like those inelegant '70s fight scenes. I love them. Everyone's slipping all over the place. You know, nobody looks like they're like trained for combat. Like it's
the best part in this during the fight scene, she takes a picture with her camera to blind the guy. Before
no, that's such a cool because it's already set up because that's her photo studio. So that's where she has everything set up to she's doing.
It makes me learn not to try to assassinate somebody in a photo studio because I mean there's probably like tripods too, like lights if you really wanted to get into it. Like it's there's too much equipment. You want to find somewhere that he doesn't have all that equipment. I like also that the guy just kind of spraying.
That's right. That was Mikey and Nikki. That was the time, Sam, that you said that he was betraying you on Majority Report by moonlighting with us.
Yeah, I was so hyped.
Right.
I was so hyped that our the show reference got dropped on like Majority Report, and then Sam's like, "You're doing other podcasts?" And I was like,
that was a little bit disturbing to find out Matthew was sort of two-timing us on the show. But
at 2, Matthew. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get into it, but. Matthew Film Guy is trademarked. The trademark. I mean, he's really for him to go on to other places and identify as Matthew Film Guy.
You're gonna hear from your lawyers.
Yeah.
He's got your merch and you've got his name as a trademark.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why we bill him as Film Man.
Film Man.
Exactly.
Why is it
Film Dude?
I don't know why that's funnier, but that's so much funnier. Film Man. It just sounds like a superhero.
Michael Film or like Michael Film Man, like it's the off-brand
Film
Matthew
Man.
Film Guy.
Matt Film Man.
Matt. Hey, it's me, Matt Film Man, and I'm about to tell you about my favorite movies over here.
Yeah, the California Filmans.
Letterhack offers to be a character witness, by the way, if that goes to court. So
for who?
But, good question. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how that develops. Forthcoming.
Poor guy. He's in the Isle of Palms on vacation. He really wanted to watch this.
Is he just commenting and not watching? Looks like he's watching to me.
Sweet. Oh, cool. He was like, I'm on vacation. I'm going to have to miss this. I'm like, come on. You have internet in your hotel. You got this.
See, Sam... Christina just bullies our viewers into watching. That's how we have an audience.
Whatever it takes.
Someone made an account, I think, on YouTube just to make this joke. Jackson Hinkle saying, "As soon as my parents unground me, I want a rematch."
That's good. I think Flavor Flav was talking trash on there earlier too. That was
there was a really funny the actual Flavor Flav last night posted, or I don't know if it was 2 nights ago, posted a picture of himself with the clock and the crown, and then the King Charles whatever not inauguration but his coronation picture, and he said who wore it better. And he was winning like 96-3.
I did see the meme that was King Charles in that outfit. It says it's illegal to dress like this in Tennessee. I thought that was pretty good. That was
That's also good.
Getting back to the film.
We have fun here, guys.
We do have fun here. I like that this very efficiently does the who can you trust thing. Because I think a lot of movies do that. I think it's almost like a trope at this point, right? But it's Sam and Metallica, yeah, absolutely. Jason Pace from Kowloon Wild City wrote his theme song. That's who's a friend of mine. That's how I know Matthew.
Okay.
So it's all tied together, people. Anyway,
we're gonna be doing our big Matthew Film Guy Mean Streets show.
Oh, we have the live show. Yeah.
You're doing Mean Streets.
Yeah, we're doing it as a live show at Sanger Hall in Queens. We are all going to be. Yeah, thank you. I don't have the date in front of me.
May 23rd.
Yeah, May 23rd.
Except for me, because I'm stuck down here.
I'm only going to be in there because I'm touring. I'm
Yeah.
playing New York the next day, Sam. So that's
Help me,
it's
guys.
a live show.
And because we're coming back with you, you know.
Exactly, because these nunnicks are going to be riding with me. But the this does the Who Can You Trust thing super well, very efficiently.
Yes.
Like it in a way that I think a lot of movies attempt to do, and they sort of like, all right, I get it. I get how I'm supposed to feel here. But like, no, it really is like, it's unsettling. It's
Yeah.
like there's and
That
Pollack
moment
does
when
a
he
great
comes
job.
out of the office,
Yeah.
and everybody's been shot, and he sees the woman with the stroller, and it makes total sense. He doesn't know who to trust, and it's
And I
done
love
so
the framing
well.
too.
Yeah.
Like you don't
Oh,
see the
yeah.
cab. You don't see the cab at all. And he wanders into the street, and that horn comes out of nowhere, and it just pans over slightly, and you see
Yeah.
the cab, and it's just like, oh, such great storytelling in camera there. That's
That progression of like how
He's like buying a pretzel or
paranoid
something, and it's stressful somehow. Yeah.
completely, like out of it and not sure who
well,
to
I
trust.
mean, it's
and
New
not
York.
know-
Usually, it's pretty stressful, like a pretzel there.
and you see the level of his savviness sort of increase over the course of that, and just sort of like compose himself and start to realize, like, I'm now not knee-jerk not trusting people. I'm having to remember not to trust people.
Precisely. No, it's absolutely. Damn, that's expensive.
What?
Yeah, I was trying to find
That
it.
looks
Not
like they
being
took
told.
that picture from the candidate.
Yeah, that's gonna look like a little bit.
Yeah.
He's not wearing that outfit in the movie.
That same haircut.
No,
I don't.
that might be
It's
the
not
candidate.
This is false, man. Why is this worth it? It's not even the false advertising.
Well, they're lying to people in Japan. I guess it's a Japanese poster.
Typical.
Yeah, well, okay. In Japan, they might have done something like that, taken like an old photo and just threw it up there.
By the way, this is
People
the
are
info
too
for the
busy.
live show that we just
Good.
talked about. Matthew's going to be joining us as well. So anyone in the New York area, Sanger Hall in Queens, it's free. The film's being shown for educational purposes, and then we talk about it, which is I think what everybody thinks this show is. And no, we just talk about it because rights issues mostly.
Yeah,
But-
I wasn't. I asked Matt Leck today. I said, "Are we going to watch the movie?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "No, you can't do
You
that.
can-
because
they-
YouTube would freak out."
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be great. We talked about doing Jason does it with This Is Revolution, where they what is it? They do it in Discord or something. What? How do
Yeah, they do a Discord movie night, which I've done before when I was
Ben.
yeah. We
Yeah.
did Nomadland, I think, that way, and we did Judas and the Black Messiah that way. And I don't know, it was cool, but they make you watch it in Discord, which kind of like fucks up the quality if you don't find like a link that really works the right way.
See, Sam, we just assume that our viewers will do the homework.
Well, I mean, the great thing is it convinces
It's not
people
my
to go watch
job
the
to
movie,
educate
and then they
you.
can come back. And it's actually makes this show worth watching twice.
See, Sam gets it. Sam does a better pitch for us than we do.
I can see what you're doing.
It's the pitch police.
We talked about the new Ari Aster movie, Beau is Afraid, which I guess a lot of people haven't gone and seen it in theaters. I mean,
I've never even heard of it.
Oh well,
Do you know Hereditary, Midsommar, those movies? Are you familiar with those? I'm gonna assume that's a no.
I'm just pretending I froze.
So we
I
just
knew it.
talked.
That's a good job, yeah.
We all went to the movie theater, obviously separately, but we all saw it and then we went and talked about it and tried to kind of sell an audience on seeing it and then spoiled it because of
It's
course
bonkers. It's a bonkers movie. Yeah.
I'm excited for Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'm going to switcheroo. I'm going to dress in all black for the Barbie film. And then when Oppenheimer, I'm going to go full hot pink. I can't wait.
And so we do cover, it's not
You're going to be
like we
changing
don't.
in the bathroom because you're going to watch them back to back, right?
Yeah, double feature.
Exactly.
Didn't you make a Sam Cedar Barbie?
I
one of those
did.
Barbie
I made it with the Infinity Gauntlet. It's like, this Ken is not afraid to debate libertarians.
Wait,
Did
what
you see
is
this
it?
meme format, Sam? This is a big deal on the internet for a week.
I did. I don't know if I did.
It was all the Barbie. Everyone was making their own Barbie posters because they came out. You can make your own version of it. I made one of you. I made one of Conan.
Yeah.
I did one where it's like, this Ken is not afraid to debate libertarians, and it's you with your Infinity Gauntlet, like
Oh, that's
Thanos.
Yeah,
And everyone was like, "Yeah, that's totally him."
it was a big deal in the meme world for like a day or two.
Well, they had a generator thing. You could put your photo in there. So of course everybody was bored and did that. But like you could put a photo in there and then it would create the poster for you.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't do more of that.
It's great fun.
You could just encourage people. You make it easy to encourage people to memeify whatever your product is, and it's surprising people haven't caught on to like. That's a way to get people to promote your stuff.
She's
I don't know how well that works.
Oppenheimer.
You got to do it with Sam Seeds. You put your
That's
face
true.
there. You
Hire
see
Andy.
yourself
He'll
as a farmer.
I should go bring over one of my seedlings. Do you want me to grab a seedling?
Yeah, go ahead. Why not? We're apparently just doing open format.
Seedling.
This is the here, I'll Andy, I'm going to put your
There you go.
your art for the show.
Yes.
For Mean Streets.
I'm the tiger for.
Sam, yeah, that's it. So Sam, this is what Andy made for our live show.
Oh, that's
Mean
fantastic.
So,
I'm the tiger.
yeah, he's got another
That's
one.
fantastic.
But let's see that seedling.
Oh, look at
All
that!
right, yeah.
Adorable.
It's so cute.
That's a train wreck right there.
Oh, you name them.
Well, I think we sell
That's how you feel after
4 or 5 different types of seeds, and this could grow into a big plant that will provide more seeds, and that's
All right.
the circle of life.
I will apparently have to pick some up in New York.
I wish you had thought of it in 2020 because I feel like the seed game was booming. People were like, starting to plant a lot. There's a lot of like those
People aren't doing that anymore. Oh,
they're still
2020 because of
planting.
COVID.
But people were like getting into like hobbies that they didn't normally get into.
Right.
Like
right.
I had like
Baking
a
bread.
bunch of seedlings in it.
Everyone was real
Yeah,
busy
that was
with
a weird.
bread
That was
for
a weird one for a little while.
Streaming.
That did not sound good. Like,
Well, it
you're like,
wasn't
"Oh, I made-
legal in New
I
York
made
State
this
at
bread.
that time. So.
Let's get this bread.
It was not
Yeah,
illegal
whenever
here
my
in
sister-
Massachusetts.
Whenever my sister comes down from New Jersey, she always gets me Mike Tyson's Mike Bites, which look like ears because of that guy who his ear.
What? For real?
He collabed
Wait.
with the guy whose ear he bit off in that boxing that match one time. And then he's got ones where they look like they've been bitten. One of the corners. been
Evander
bitten off, and
Holyfield.
I was like, okay, I get it now.
And I thought we had weird stuff at the merch table. Jesus Christ. that's wow.
Man.
But by the way, Sam, this is
All
what
right.
the after party is like. It's just this. Like there's like it's just this until
So this
we
is the
stop.
pre
Apparently
after party.
Apparently that's what we're doing. Yeah. But it's a
Do we have
Ponzi
anything
scheme.
else?
But
I think you're
3
being
days
really
of
good
the
not talking about the
3
TV
days of the
series.
Condor. What about
Not going to talk about
the-
mute him.
What's
We're not
that?
talking about that. Andy wants to talk about the TV show and no one else wants to.
I want to hear one. I want to hear just one thing about the TV show. I'm
One thing
sorry.
about the
You're
show,
in for it.
the whole conceit of the show is what if Mox Van Sydow is played by a hot Mossad agent that sleeps with Joe before she goes in and tries to kill everybody.
Oh, so Condor's Hunter is a woman.
Yes.
So it's a redo? I thought it was a sequel.
Yeah, it's a redo. It's a redo. It's set in modern times. It's
When was
the
this
cast-
produced?
It came out in like 2018.
Really? Oh, geez,
I was like
no,
on
I had
some
no idea.
streaming service for like MGM.
Yeah.
I'm like, MGM and AT&T have a streaming service? What is this
Oh, was
guy?
that where Mr. Mercedes was? Because that was a
Maybe?
good
I
show.
don't know.
With
I don't
Brad
know.
It's kind of perfect though. There's so many like wiretap things in this.
Yeah,
you can be
but it has a
you know how you won't get wiretapped. AT&T's.
AT&T does, yeah. Exactly.
But it's got like William Hurt and Brendan Fraser in the show, which is amazing.
Who is unemployed 6 months, few months after winning his Oscar? Employed Brendan Fraser. Okay, sorry.
And in a better movie, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, so Andy, did you get out of your system? Anything else on that?
I think so. I mean, unless
Okay,
somebody has
great.
any questions.
That's
Any
pretty cool.
follow-ups?
No, I have no questions about that, but all of them were answered.
Questions that we didn't even have.
I would watch. I think a good idea for a TV show on this is a sitcom where it's just the literary office or whatever, and like they don't get killed, but it's just them kind of hanging out at the
having
office.
work. It's like a workplace.
Barney Miller.
Dead. They just break them.
Yeah, it's just they're just like that whole thing where he like talks about the ice bullet and stuff, and it's like there's having a day. They're having a day, and so workplace antics, drama, light comedy.
He's like, he goes out there, he gets like some vegan food.
There's a Les Nessman type character,
He gets some vegan food for the whole office or whatever, and they're kind of pissed about it, and they're like, "This vegan food, oh my god, I hate this." What? And he's like, "I want all you guys to be healthier. I don't."
Yeah,
I don't want you to die.
Since we're talking about The Office, which I really, that for some reason this line has always stuck with me, just because Redford did such a great job in delivering it, and it told so much about his personality, is when his girlfriend in the office, that woman that he was working with, she says, she tells him the meaning of that Chinese character,
the
and
calligraphy that he's doing.
She says, he says, "Are you sure?" And she goes, "Look at my face. Am I sure?" And he goes, "It's a great face, but it's never been to China." Like when he delivered that "it's never been to China," there was something so like he both was like, "I'm not attacking you, but I am not going to I'm going to separate. I both can be emotional and then separate the emotion when I've got to make this analysis." And that, I think was so...
it's key to understanding who he is.
And so key to understanding who he is and everything he does after that. Everything he does after that.
And he does it so affably as well. It's
exactly.
affable and charming. Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those roles that's really hard to imagine anyone else pulling off the stuff that he was able to pull off in that film. Really...
Yeah, and I think this is like the 7th film he's collabed with Pollack on, if I'm not mistaken. Like it's quite a bit.
He's done at least a few. Did he do like Jeremiah Johnson or something?
I think he isn't. Yeah. Jeremiah Johnson is before this. I think
that's. No, I have a feeling it must have been after, right? Or no?
No. Jeremiah Johnson was before this. And
was it?
They did some more after it. So
how dare you
like
doubt
in
me?
The middle of the whole, of them collaborating together. I don't remember which number.
Which is mostly known for that meme that everyone thought was Zach Galifianakis.
Tim Pool.
And it's like like the nodding meme where it's like so clearly Robert Redford. Everyone's like, "Oh, that's Zach Galifianakis." What? No, it isn't. What are you talking about?
It's Robert Redford.
Like those dudes, not lookalikes. Anyway.
You don't think
peace and love, peace
Zach
and love.
Galifianakis looks just like Robert Redford?
I do not.
I mean, I'm watching The Hangover thinking, man, what's Robert Redford doing in this movie?
All right, he's looking good for his age.
Oh.
Actually, no, he isn't. He looks better for his age. That's how Galifianakis says now. Coming up next week, Zach Galifianakis. Thank you.
So this film actually is has a bit of a legacy. Not to mention Marvel or anything, but Marvel's superhero film Captain America: The Winter Soldier was inspired by this film and other sources as well by the original comic book source material. The directors, the Russo brothers, admit this and say that Robert Redford's casting in their film was intended as an homage.
And it so clearly is. So clearly.
Yes. Winter Soldier was inspired by
3 Days of the Condor and and also Parallax View too,
Yeah, I mean, it was just the tone, because they certainly didn't take a lot from the comic. That's for sure.
God damn it, Matthew.
Philosophy just turns me off. I'm like, I'm a policy gal. Don't be talking about this to me. I don't care. I don't care.
Aspiring suitors be warned.
Proper answer.
You don't watch Andy sound off on Give Them an Argument.
What's a Kindler? What's or no?
No. This and J. Andrew World Andy.
This Andy.
Yeah. He sounds off on Give Them an Argument every week. He gives his Andy take.
I don't think I've seen
the
that.
philosophy of Farscape.
Yeah. Ben usually kicks me off before you come on the show, so I don't get to talk to the guests.
Well, he's afraid. He's afraid that you're going to bring up the Condor
Spider-Man live action
or
TV
something.
show.
Yeah.
Speaking of Stargate, what? Nobody was talking about Stargate. Why did you bring that up? Marathon Man's an interesting reference as well, Sam. You mentioned that. I actually, that was one that I missed for years, but I saw it like last year, I think. So that's like Dustin Hoffman, Roy Scheider.
Yep.
Laurence Olivier. I mean, it definitely fits the vibe.
Sir Laurence Olivier.
Yes.
Pardon me. As the that whole, but like that haunting, like that is it safe?
I had dental work today, and
did you ask if it was safe?
They didn't put the cap on properly, and she was like saying like, "Oh, we've got to fill it up with it." And the pain, I immediately go to that scene with Hoffman and Olivier, like when he's trying to sort of like breathe but not so heavily that it hurts his open nerve on his teeth. And that's a great one. I mean, I like I say, I like all those the French Connection too. Like I like all those New York movies of that era are just awesome. And Frankenheimer, there's also something like Frankenheimer did French Connection, but he also did Ronin. And
and
Seder plays the same, I think, like an homage to Joubert because he's in that movie and he's up in like in the Alps and he's painting his little men still.
Yeah. So it's like,
and I think and he is a former sort of like freelance guy. And also I think Redford in Sneakers was like the next generation of that same character on some level.
Well, in the same way and I can't believe I'm bringing up Enemy of the State a second time, but Gene Hackman's in it.
Conversation is like sort of not. Sort of.
It's sort of like it doesn't explicitly say, but it's like if nothing else, it's like they're trying to like get that connection, that shine.
Definitely.
Right?
And do you think Ronin was also a reference to this movie, where after De Niro gets shot, Jean Reno takes him to De Niro's friend, who is painting the little soldiers, who then removes the bullet from him?
Well, I think in their mind, this is Joubert like 30 years later. Like this is what he's doing. He's now somewhat retired, still painting his little army men because it's all about precision, right? I mean, that was what that scene was in. You see him do it for 10 seconds before he gets the phone call. And you realize like that's all. I mean, this guy's getting paid whatever it is, and he's sitting in his hotel room painting figurines. Like for him, it's all about the precision and whatever he can do. And
I like that they're also
and absolute control too. Absolute control.
They're not afraid to show him kind of just being in that room and practicing in some way, like practicing his craft, but at the same time, like it feels kind of I like the line where he's like, oh, it's very restful actually to do his job because he's kind of just waiting around to track the guy and then find him. And I like that they're not afraid to show you that part of it. Like a lot of they keep flipping, but like because Rob Redford's so frantic throughout this whole movie, like he's grabbing people and he's putting them into the room, and Joubert's just calm. It's like I'll find him eventually. We'll cross paths. Like we'll probably go to the this house in Long Island. This is the one time you get really away from New York City besides the Washington D.C. scenes, and I like that it's almost like a respite when he finally meets him. Like.
The interesting thing, though, is that Joubert calls Atwood at that moment, and it's really like it's like a big mistake. And even Atwood said, like, you shouldn't have called me here. And you see by the end, it takes Joubert like that much time to catch up with with Condor, right? In like mentally, like by the time Condor shows up at Atwood's house, he has predicted it that he would be there, right? He said this was predictable, and they didn't know you'd be here. I knew you'd be here, but he didn't. In a couple of scenes earlier, he blew it with the phone call. Right. Because he didn't realize, where Condor was in terms of like his progression of savviness.
I love the movie. Do you think it's the fact that he kind of he's making the calls, he hears the click. I think when he with the phone, because when you tap a phone, you hear the click. I was wondering if he kind of knew that this phone was being tapped or something throughout that, and was
and trying to lead.
That's how I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong about that, but he was like very confident that he would show up there. I was wondering, like, I thought maybe he had planted that kind of to, get that information, but I don't know.
Interesting. That's a good. That hadn't even occurred to me.
It's too much of an amateur, and I'm probably thinking too much into it. I'm thinking like.
He was still underemployee of Atwood at that point. He had no reason to believe that that would flip at one point, or maybe he did. I don't know.
I think it's this. And that's I don't have anything to add to that, but that's an interesting theory. Yeah. The Higgins' office, isn't it in the World Trade Center too?
Yes.
Is there any other movie that is like
filmed in the World Trade Center? Nope. Yeah. This is the only feature film to ever be filmed inside the World Trade Center.
Oh, is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Wow.
Wow.
I mean,
because Fringe wasn't.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Boy was in the World Trade Center, and the
Man on a Wire was.
Rockefeller let them.
Technically speaking, you are correct, and that movie rocks, by the way. Although
maybe Rockefeller let them into the World Trade Center to film the first movie.
Well, you could see the shot from the outside where it was still a construction site almost. It looked like it was like that area around there was completely underdeveloped at that moment. When they shot that, they shot it right like after it was built.
Yeah, because there's that scene where he's
they're landing a helicopter out in front of it too.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like Turner is watching Higgins being tailed by Kathy, too, from the balcony inside one of the buildings, and it's like that's actually, if I remember right, that's even like there's like some documentary about the World Trade Center collapse I saw, and I was like, is that 3 Days of the Condor shot? I think it is. But I just think that's wild. It's like this is the only movie that ever was like filmed in there, and to think about again. Technically speaking, Man on a Wire, but
that was so tied into this to what ultimately sort of was the fate of that building. I mean, it's fascinating.
Just since I know everybody on the panel knows, Man on a Wire is this fella, this French guy, right? Who walked a tightrope between the World Trade Center.
Yep.
And it's a pretty remarkable documentary, and like charitably, people did not want him to do that. They were. That's probably the best way to put it.
Another movie that uses that we just talked about recently that uses the World Trade Center. We just talked about Escape from New York pretty recently, and that's another movie where they built a fake World Trade Center, obviously out of a model, but
they did the same thing for Spider-Man. Whenever they the deleted scene from the 2002 version of Spider-Man.
That was in the preview, right? But it was right before the towers fell, and so they
there was like a teaser trailer where Spider-Man basically captures a helicopter between the two towers.
What's he gonna jump off of now? There's nothing there. It's
Trump Tower.
The tallest building in New York, Trump Tower.
Oh my God.
Too soon. Shall we do Letterboxd one-liners?
Yes.
What do you think?
Yeah.
So, Sam,
what's that?
I'll direct this to you. Letterboxd is it's a place for film. It's like a social media site for film lovers to sort of talk with and to each other about the films they love. Maybe the films.
I've heard this from Matt Film Man.
You're a Matt Film Man now. And it's it's open source democracy. Everyone gets to have their say, not just Siskel's and Eberts of the world. Everyone gets to opine about the things they love. They love the things that they were just horny on Maine for, which is happening a lot for this film, by the way. And this is best expressed succinctly. You keep it short. You work in your tight 5 in front of the brick wall, the Comedy Store or whatever. And what we do is pull these Letterboxd reviews for the movies, put them on, and we read them off and we react to them. And these are the Letterboxd one-liners for 3 Days with Condor. They are absolutely not going to print it.
Yeah, that was my first. That was my first thought in that scene too. I'm like, they're not going to print. They're not going to print it.
Well, we know they didn't.
Exactly. Verifiable proof.
Hold on, a couple of them didn't load, so I'm just doing that real fast.
But that's such a great way to end this film, though. It is like one of the all-timers, kind of like the end of The Candidate. It's like, what is it? What do we do now?
Yeah. The other thing that it just occurs to me with this shot too is that and this is another thing Redford pulls off. That coat is so iconic, and it's not even his in the movie.
Right. That's awesome.
Right? I mean, that coat is so iconic, and
I had a coat like that.
It's his. It's the boyfriend's.
Yeah.
Who we never see.
You never see. You hear him on the phone because she's all mad that she's not going to Vermont.
And this is typical of her.
Yeah, this is typical, and I wonder what the other situations where this is typical.
How is this typical? Exactly. What is that life like? What's that?
Well, he picked it up. Joe Turner picked it up because he's like, you don't want to be around people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Faye Dunaway would do anything for that man, including shove a loose pastrami sandwich into her purse. Also funny how the mailman was just spamming kicks. Pollack rules. So stylish.
Agreed.
Yeah, I didn't realize the pastrami thing until I rewatched it today.
It's not all I could focus on. When I saw it, I'm like, she just puts that whole sandwich in her purse. Like, what? That's wild.
And the weird thing is, I don't think he ever ate it. I think it's still in the purse.
It's still there to this
Oh
day.
God! After all these decades,
I've never.
50 years.
I guarantee you, tomorrow Matthew Film Guy will be selling that on his eBay.
I thought it was going to be at the museum.
Purse.
It belongs in a museum. Thank you. Every actor in 70s movies was interesting, even the hot ones. Where do we go wrong?
I know, right?
Yeah, that's true about Robert Redford. Definitely, like he's more interesting than our leading men today.
Yeah. Paul Newman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Warren Beatty.
The classics.
I would argue though that Colin Farrell might be the only one that kind of it meets that mold.
Colin Farrell has had a great turn as you've actually got acting skills.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think he's like the only leading man I would consider also as a as like a character actor and trapped in a leading man's body, and I think that's that's true with these other people too.
Yeah, we talked about it on the Banshees of Inisherin episode, but yeah, After Yang, he's also fantastic in After Yang, and both those came out last year, which is wild. So. No movie can possibly be bad when it has the line, "What if there's another CIA inside the CIA?"
I feel like that definitely inspired Oliver Stone's thought process for
oh sure, yeah.
for JFK and
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Robert Redford. How many of those? All the Bourne movies were about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole cottage industry of them at this point, I think. But Robert Redford never got his bike back.
Yeah, I was gonna when you Conan, when you had said that he had his bike at the beginning of the movie, I was gonna sort of dissent there a little bit.
Yeah,
it was actually like an early moped, and it was not a bike, and everybody knows what a moped is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a moped, which I think was also really important for his character because you did not see mopeds around that time, ever. And it wasn't a motorcycle, it was a moped. And people were mocking him. In the opening scenes, you can see that he's yelling back at a car, making like a noise because somebody in the car had mocked his moped.
Yeah, that's it. Pro moped. He's pro moped and he votes people.
But it's also super geeky.
Right.
Like you get the sense that he built that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably was a project for him or something, right? So hard to argue with a movie that's all about Robert Redford reading his little books and running around New York City, all while wearing beautiful coats. That's synergy.
See?
Talking about
Yes.
that coat. Synergy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Here we go.
That's how good we are at this, people.
3.5 though.
Yeah. What the hell? Laura,
Tighten up.
you're on a list.
Nerd who works for the CIA finds out what the CIA actually does.
I don't like the attitude in that one either.
Jason, you're on blast.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine, if you will, a world where everyone has bizarre sexual tension with Robert Redford.
Can relate.
It's my impromptu Rod Sterling voice. Not great, not terrible.
4 stars. Okay, Dante.
Yeah, Dante's got it. I hate it when someone pushes all the buttons in the elevator.
Oh, same.
Oh, that was actually really funny.
That's a great scene.
So much tension, and then there's these guys.
Happy birthday to you, Grandpa.
I love when he's like, I love when he says like, "Oh, you're getting off on 2" or something like that.
Yeah. It's like, why do you have that information? Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
No, you're not the guy that's stalking me or anything, or following me.
Whatever. Anyway, these are the Letterboxd one-liners for 3 Days of the Condor. This is like the roughest that bit's ever been, Sam. Sorry.
It's usually flawless. I just have to run out of the room for 1 second.
He just said,
yeah.
Always has to do that.
Bits break for pee breaks. Please, if you're on Letterboxd, follow Condor Union now. G. Flaubert, always Flacco. Moving Extravaganza. He is the face of the show, and you can follow him and find.
And
out
the
all
one
the
that
stuff
just fucked up the bit.
and the one that is the blame for totally screwing that bit up. I am Check the Shoes, Conan Neutron, all over Letterboxd, watching the highbrow stuff, the midbrow stuff, everything in between, Populous Fare. Follow me for the Criterion Challenge and follow along with them. I get back at that really soon. J. Andrew, Endangered Birds of the World, is a CIA art specialist, and he is watching all the weirdest stuff, so you don't have to, or maybe you can. Who am I to judge? It's your party. But he's doing it all there, and you can follow him and see what he's got going on. Faye Dunn Away, Christina Oakes down there. She everything I love is CIA. That's a great subtitle. That's she's a very occasional Letterboxd user, but every once in a while she'll charm all of us with her wit and her wisdom on that particular platform. Sam Cedar barely knows what it is. He just knows it's something Matthew's on.
Exactly.
That's where Matthew Film Guy's been able to build his own brand. Apart from
that
Sam Cedar.
You might have to be like, yo, Matthew, you can't be doing this Letterboxd thing now too, okay?
There can be only one. We can do Highlander rules on this. Jay Andrew World, please take it away with the plugs. Then we'll do some final thoughts.
All right. You're watching us right now on YouTube. Please do all those YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. And, of course, the big ask is watch the video to the end. You get a great Conan Neutron song, and that helps us get discovered by other movie fans.
Please.
We are on social media. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on YouTube. Of course, you can find us on YouTube because you're watching us on YouTube.
Might be watching on Twitch, actually.
You can watch us on
Twitch. My Twitch
Or
community
Rumble.
needs to chill the fuck out.
Oh
I'm just
yeah,
saying.
we should get on Rumble.
We're all over True Social, Sam Cedar.
Not Rumble,
Booski.
but I guess the other one that all those guys are on, like Rockfin or whatever.
Rockfin. Is that still around?
I don't know if it is, but I had a meeting, Kenzo and I, when because Nomiki was doing her show on there, and she got us an interview with the guy from Rockfin one time, and not the platform I would have.
That's the one that paid in Bitcoin, right? Because it's like
yeah.
That's
The guy was like so we pay in a crypto wallet.
Yeah. No, that's when you're like, check please.
Well, he was
I'm out.
an ex wrestling promoter that was trying to like get his trying to get political content on there, and he was like, we got like Jimmy Dore on here, we got the like he was listing off just the people that you would not want to.
Yeah.
Like I love politics.
Yeah, just list off your rogues gallery if you're Spider-Man. Oh yeah, they're all here. Dr. Octopus has a show. Green Goblin. It's a good time.
Shocker. The guy who killed your uncle.
They all got shows on here. We pay them all in crypto coin.
Alan Dulles has a Rockfin show now. It's a
wild time. It's an
do you guys see that there's actually there's an official CIA podcast now? As of like a few months ago, they like tweeted the CIA account or whatever, and they're like, we have a podcast now, starting with 75 years of the CIA.
Yeah, Jesus. Here's how we overthrew this South American country.
I mean, how could you not? If you were the CIA, how could you
step-by-step guide.
I feel like they're just out of step for the fact that they weren't involved in like podcasting, and well, maybe they were like 2012 or something. You know what I mean? Like they're on the forefront of it with podcast Martine.
Never Not Funny with Jimmy Pardo.
Familiar.
That was CIA.
Like,
CIA.
It's a CIA
radio free podcast.
Yeah. Bullseye. That was CIA.
Do you think the CIA is a Patreon? You could just you could join for like whatever.
I don't know if the CIA does, but this show certainly does. Isn't that right, Andy?
Yes, we do have a Patreon. The great thing about the Patreon is that if you miss it and you really want one of our after parties, the after parties live on there forever.
Are we gonna do it?
Yeah.
After party forever. Okay. Yeah, that's why we don't do that anymore.
Yeah,
that's really hard to do.
But we need that like little harmonica tune thing. Like
it sounds. I do so much in this show. I can't.
I know.
Too many.
But you know what else you do? You do a great show called Protonic Reversal.
I do. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
It is. And you just had a huge show with the guy from Slayer,
Dave Lombardo of Slayer. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that he was a great guest. All kinds of different publications are picking up stuff from the show, and that has happened many times before, but they're actually linking back and mentioning the show, which I thought was very nice. Took 9 years. Finally, that's starting to happen. They're finally crediting me.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I got Brett Bradford, Scratch Acid was on too. Gareth from USA Nails from England.
Yes. Who will be on with the show with you in New York on the 24th.
Yes, they're playing exactly. Not the Moving Extravaganza live show. The show the next day. I guess I could have had that available, huh? Oh well. At St. Vitus with Deer Horse, USA Nails, Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, and Arc Gray Noise Quintet, and that's at St. Vitus in Brooklyn. That's at 24th.
Then we're all going out to Minneapolis to do Caterwaul.
That's right. That is right. Let me see if I can do the thing. Let's see how fancy I can be here. Boom! Look at that.
Look at that.
It's like 54 bands in Minneapolis, four-day festival. Are you exhausted just looking at this, Sam?
That looks like a lot of bands.
It's a lot. It is a lot of bands. Yes, it's a good time.
How much is that cost? Like $8,000 for a ticket?
$140 for a 4-day pass.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Coachella could never.
So that's hear that, Sam's listeners. If you're remotely in the Midwest or feel like traveling to see a bunch of noisy bands, go to Caterwaul. Caterwaul.org.
That's quite a deal. You could enjoy like 5% of those bands and still get your money's worth.
It should be more expensive. We're terrible capitalists. Is what it comes down to. But yeah, it's
how much does each band get paid? Like a quarter?
Yeah. We pay in crypto.
It's Spotify rules.
Yeah, exactly. You're getting paid in exposure. Anyway,
who's exposure? No.
You're supposed to be. You don't get to make jokes. You're supposed to be doing the plugs, and we do the.
You're right. I am.
How many episodes of this have we done? Jesus.
Yeah, you think I'd be better at this?
You would think.
Christina, you're over on Twitch doing your thing.
Yep.
Anything coming up this week? I missed the news today, so you could surprise me.
Yeah, I'm gonna stream. We have a very easy work week, my mom and I. So I'm gonna be streaming all the way till Saturday. My next dog sitting job. I do a lot, Sam. I keep busy. But like, I'm gonna be streaming tonight, tomorrow, Friday, and then I'll be back next Saturday. So I'm gonna have to miss an episode of the podcast because that dog does not shut up. So yeah, keep him busy.
That's like my internal dialogue every time we get to the plugs, VFC. Yes.
Yes. And you got a coffee, so kofi.com/cosmopolitan.
Kofianon.net. Yes.
Yes. I go there and buy Christina a coffee. You want to.
Yeah.
So Christina's got a great show on Twitch, is what Andy's trying to say. And if you're on Twitch,
yes. If you ever need someone for a casual Friday, I'm usually off on most Fridays. I'm just saying.
No, keep it in mind.
Yes. I have a very chill atmosphere with my Twitch and my community. Though tonight they're going crazy.
Yes, they are.
Whole communities out there.
And Sam, you have a little podcast too.
I heard
it's
about
true.
it.
It's true.
Yeah. You heard about this?
Huh. Yes. It's called The Majority Report.
Pretty good. Yeah.
And you can see it every day, noon, live on youtube.com/Sam Seder, or you can listen live.
Yes, I'm a member, so I listen during work.
Oh, there you go. And on the app.
Yep.
But Sam, do you have final thoughts on this movie?
I mean, you need to. This is a movie. It's weird for me because all my contemporaries saw this movie, but like I have friends who are in their 40s and people in the office, who are all significantly younger than me, and they've never seen these. And this era of movies is like, I feel like you could dip into a movie in the 80s or the 90s, and it's not terribly different from each other. But this particular 5 or 6 years in the maybe the last year of the 60s and the into the 70s, very unique time in filmmaking, and this is on the more sort of accessible commercial edge of that, I think, and it's still great. No?
Yeah. I mean,
you guys don't agree?
I agree.
I get it.
Wait,
can we take that again?
These mics aren't on, are they? Yeah.
Fuck it, we'll do it live. Christina, final thoughts?
I saw this film originally when I was a lot younger because I was kind of going through I grew up on old Hollywood films, like silent era, old Hollywood, the fall of the studio era. So I became a fan of all the greats from that era. And so this is actually probably one of my favorite Robert Redford films by far. Yeah, I just think the chemistry between Robert Redford and Faye Dunaway is just great. I think Max von Sydow makes a great villainous character. The shots are phenomenal, the editing, the music in the background. Okay, it's fine. It's very dated, very 70s-esque. It kind of led me wanting more, though. I felt in the end, I was like, I kind of want more. But
yeah, there's not a lot of running around the city. That's what I feel like.
But in the end, I think this is a film that's worth watching for sure, especially if you're a huge fan of political thrillers and that era of 1970s film.
I thought you were gonna say a big fan of the CIA.
I'm a big fan of their podcast, actually. Have you heard it?
Yes.
Subscribe. Yeah. It's quite good.
But Conan, got any final thoughts?
Yeah, look, this is a taut and stressful political thriller, and it's from the golden era of them. I think I mentioned earlier that we've been spoiled by modern flash and technology and jump cuts. So to look back in this and really see the genius of it, it's something to behold. There's a Hitchcock level of suspense, and I don't say that lightly. And it's a perfect epitome of a slow boil of intrigue until it all explodes. And as mentioned before, There's a conversation at the end about resources that could have been written or said yesterday, but it's from 47 years ago, which is wild. And
Well, it's
and
the
I
beginning
love
of those shortages, like the beginning of the supply chain issues.
It's
My mom was like, I remember back in the late 70s where there was a rationing. It was like an even and odd day to get gas, and I'm like, wow.
And it has one of the best like shorthand summation of somebody's character I've ever seen in any film, which is he reads. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Kids don't do that enough nowadays.
Hey, busy reading.
But,
hey, I'm reading here. Thank you.
But Andy, final thoughts?
Midnight Cowboys actually also.
This movie is a fantastic feat of storytelling visually. Like it uses the medium in a way that you don't often see in film. You find in comics, like I mentioned before, the example of the where he like stumbles into the street and you don't see the car and you hear the horn honk and the camera pans over and there's suddenly a car there. Like that is a masterful storytelling with the camera, and there's a lot of scenes like that kind of lead you through beautifully with just being able to use the camera as a tool in a way that you don't normally see in other films. So that kind of elevates it above some of the other films that we've mentioned, because I don't think they do that like this, and that's a quite incredible feat to pull off.
All right, and I'll just say, fuck the Wall Street Journal.